Welcome back to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. I'm Chris, and today we have another incredible guest joining us. Our mission here is to fuel your drive to get things done by exploring the journeys of individuals who have successfully overcome procrastination and mastered productivity. Our guest today is Farzin Mazanani. Farzin is an award winning author, holistic wellness practitioner, and transformational joyfulness coach. He helps high achievers avoid burnout and succeed with joy and ease instead of hustle and grind so they can enjoy the journey. Now, before we get things started, let's kick off with a fun icebreaker. Now,
Sure.
Farzan, what superpower to spread joy and happiness would you have, and how would you use it?
So the superpower, yeah, that's a good question. So the superpower is changing my perspective. What it means is that you want to find joy, but what if you are joy? Because when you're trying to find something, it means that you have a distance. There is a distance between you and the subject that you are pursuing. And most of the time, that space remains intact. So, what if we change places and we become joy? Then everything starts to shift. I give you an example. Sometimes I'm standing outside, sun is shining, and I feel the sun rays on my body, on my face, and all of a sudden the clouds come and cover the sun. I cannot receive the direct sun rays anymore. But what if I am the sun? Then it doesn't matter if the cloud is there or not. So that is the difference. When you are in the place you want to be, then you're in the place. There's no distance. So you are joy yourself. But it sometimes takes a little bit of prerequisites to get there. But if you be able to have that superpower, to have that perspective, everything is going to be changed.
Wow, that's powerful right there. So your superpower would be perspective and changing that to become joy. It's very,
Yes.
it's a very good superpower to have. We should all have that one. So, Farzan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to where you are today?
Sure. So I'm going to go back to little Farzan at the age of 12. So at the time, I had things in my life, supportive family and friends and good schooling and those kind of things. But somehow I was not satisfied with the things that I had in life because I was looking for more happiness. I was looking for more joy and I couldn't find it. And it is normal for most people because before you go to school, everything is fine. Everything, you are in the playground and you're playing and you're having fun. You are just going on the slide and you're going to on the sling and enjoying and have that kind of joy as a child. And then what happens is that we go to school and then we have to sit straight, listen to the teacher, do the homework. We are not used to doing those kind of things. And then we go to the yard, we are pushed over by other students, we have to protect ourselves. Our perspective changes from a friendly universe to a hostile universe. We feel that we have to protect ourselves. We feel like we have to be careful about other people. They might hurt us. So we build a guard around ourselves. So, and that is normal for almost everybody because of the perspective shift that they had from childhood to they are going through the adulthood. That is the norm, you know. But it comes with a price. The price is that we're gonna be on that state of fight or flight more often because we have to be careful and we see danger everywhere. Everybody can just harm us, so we have to protect ourselves. So we are in that stress mode all the time. Not all the time, but a lot of times. So we build that wall around us that separates us from others and separates us from ourselves too. So I had those kind of things that I was looking for, that joy that I had in a childhood, but I didn't experience it. And I was asking why. So I was asking that uh, from my parents, the teachers, friends. Nobody could give me the answer. So I started a quest to find that element myself. So my quest took about 12 years. During that 12 years, I went through books because that was what was available at the time. We didn't have internet, we didn't have YouTube or other means to research things and stuff like that. So I had access to the books. So my self heaven was the books. I would go to the bookstores and look for all the information I could find. And based on the books, I would go to different paths, practice different paths. So after 12 years, I had more than 1,000 books in my personal library, went through all of them. And then I went through a lot of different paths as well, close to 20 different paths. And so I was switching from path to path because I was looking for the highest, not the shadow of the truth, just the pure truth, the ultimate truth. And nothing could satisfy me. And what happened was that at that time, I was even more confused after thousands of books. I was even more frustrated, more confused. Sometimes you sometimes you don't know about things and you are fine, and then start learning about things and you find out that you don't know much when you learn more. So that was what happening to me. So I was more frustrated. So I decided to make a radical decision. That decision was that I decided to trap myself in a room, a windowless room, close the door, turn the light off, and I said to myself, I'm gonna stay in here until I find that what is the source of joy. That the question that I had was that. And so I did that. I talked to my uncle. He had a basement, an empty basement. In the basement, there was a room that was perfect setting. So there was a washroom inside. There was no windows. So I talked to my uncle and said that I'm gonna go and stay in that room. He said, "For how long?" I said, "I don't know. Maybe 3 days, or 3 weeks, or 3 months. I don't know how long is gonna take me for get out of that room because I didn't know when I'm gonna get my answers." So I went to the room, and so fortunately he accepted. He was a kind of liberal person. When I explained those kind of things, he understood what I was going through. So I went to the room, closed the door. It was absolute darkness because I turned the light off. I couldn't see outside. What is if it's day or night? After a while, you don't feel the sense of the time, you know? And I couldn't hear anything. Absolute silence and absolute darkness. It was me and myself and my thoughts. And so I had to face myself. I went through a lot of challenges. When you're facing yourself, it's not easy. And then an experience caused me to get out of that room. What was the experience? That experience started in a small warmness or something like a flame in my heart. And it started to spread all over my body. I felt that my cells are burning. And then I started sweating badly and shaking. And all of a sudden, the scenario changed. I was in a pure bliss. I cannot explain it, but there was light and heavenly sound and everything. And that was the purest form of joy I could imagine. I can't even describe it. But it was coming from inside. So it caused me to come out because I knew all the answers in that moment. And I was in the state of wisdom, freedom, and joy and love. As I said, it's hard to describe it in words, but it was a kind of bliss that is not, we usually don't experience it normally. And then I came out with two realization. First one was the joy that I was looking for on the outside of the books and material and the paths. I was looking for it in the wrong place, because all it was inside me, not outside. It is just like the story of the 8 years of diamond, that that farmer in Africa who sold his farm to go and find diamond, and he died, and the one who bought the farm found the largest diamond mine in that farm. So sometimes we look for things on the outside, but it is actually inside. So that was the source of true joy that I was looking for. It was inside my heart. So what was the second type of realization? It was, so on the first one, I I could differentiate between joy and happiness, because happiness depends upon the circumstances, outside circumstances. Sometimes we are happy, sometimes we're sad, and it depends upon the situations that we are in, the people we're dealing with. But joy doesn't have any opposite, and it's coming from inside. So we can carry that joy. We can become that joy. So the second one, the second realization was our heart is also a source of wisdom, not the knowledge, the wisdom. What is the difference? Knowledge is the collection of all the information that we put them together to realize about something. Like a puzzle, the pieces of the puzzle, we just put them together to see the picture. So it's a bottom-up approach. But wisdom is top-down approach. It means that somebody just shows us the final picture, and then we see it. That's it. So that is the what some people call the moments that something and inspiring something that comes to them, that they realize something that they didn't even know before, they didn't even look for it. They just are connected to a source of wisdom, and it is in our heart as well. So there are two gains out of that experience. One was the wisdom, the other one was joy. So we went up and down on life based on the experiences that I gained. And I finally immigrated to Canada. When I came to Canada, I had an engineering background. And in here, I had to start from scratch. I had to forget about all my achievements, all my background, and everything. And I was working somewhere. It was hard on my body. And one day, I injured my back. And my upper back was injured. I couldn't move. So I had to go to therapy. I lost that job and I had to find another one. And fortunately, I found another job. But that caused a lasting impact on me. I experienced something called chronic pain. And chronic pain is the pain that you carry more than 6 months. So I had that pain for 15 years. So what was it like? I would go to work and do the stuff that I usually do, and then after a week, I would I would get the frozen shoulder and neck. I couldn't move my neck to the side, and even when I was driving, I couldn't just check the mirror to see what's happening. So it was hard, very hard on my body, and nothing was showing up on the MRIs. So the specialists couldn't help me because they couldn't point the finger and say that that muscle is pulled or something like that. They couldn't find anything. Medications wouldn't work. So I had that pain almost every week. I had to go to therapy, physiotherapy, and so on to release that frozen neck. And a friend of mine came over and she said that maybe I can help you. And I said, "You're not a specialist. How can you help me?" And she said, "There's no harm. Let's try this and see what happens." I was frustrated, so I said, "Okay, let's do it." So she gave me a couple of phone calls and she released the trapped emotions that I had at the time of the accident. Because when you have an accident like that, there are emotional baggage that you carry based on that. The worry, the anxiety that you're losing your job, or you're going through a stage that you cannot support your family, and those kind of fears, worry, anxiety, and the grief, and those kind of things. Those are the emotions that we experience. And sometimes we cannot process them properly. Why? Because of something called prefrontal cortex. That is the differentiating factor between us as human and animals. So we think about things, we mentalize things. Something happens to us, and then we think about it, we talk to our friends, we complain, and we start mentalizing it, remembering it again and again. So we go through that process all the time, and it gets those things stuck in our body, the experiences. For example, you're driving back home from work and you're tired, and somebody cuts you off in traffic, you get mad and start swearing and getting angry, and you go home and talk to your wife and about those mad drivers on the road, and talk to your friend, and this kind of people are driving like that. So it gets stuck in our body. So that is a type of energy that we carry. You cannot check it out in the MRI test because there's nothing is showing up. But she released those, and I was fine. So it was an experience that I never had. That I was expecting the pain to come back, never came back. And she said that you have the talent to do the same thing for others as well. That's why I just switched to this field, went on and got my certifications in emotion code, and started working on other people for releasing their emotions. That is most of the time root cause of a lot of problems that we have.
Well, Farzin, that was a very amazing story, and thank you so much for sharing it with us. Out of all of that, I do have a couple of questions for you. So, when you say that you had 1,000 books, that's quite a few different books. Now, what would you say was your most influential book that you read?
So yeah, so I have to remember about the things that I went through, but mostly I was mostly influenced by uh there is a book called Tao Te Ching. So it is related to Taoism, which is a practice in China. And I could relate to whatever that was in that book, but it is on a deep level. And you read all those, they are all coming from a source that has experienced those kind of moments. But reading something makes it a second-hand knowledge. Experiencing it is different. When you experience something firsthand, it is different than just reading it in a.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense as well. So, and you were also talking about happiness, and I find it interesting this whole topic of happiness. You said that happiness was from external factors, and I always like this topic because the way I was thinking about it was, we have unconditional love, right? So
Yeah,
there's no conditions on it. But is it possible to have unconditional happiness then?
yeah, that unconditional happiness is called joy. So it's
Oh,
different from happiness.
oh, okay. So the unconditional happiness is called joy.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And actually, going back to the aspect of books, you actually wrote a book, isn't that right?
Yes, I wrote a
Can
book.
you tell us a little bit about your book?
Sure. Before I go through the story for the book, I want to share another experience that I had during the releasing of those trapped emotions. The person who released those kind of emotions did something else for me too. She dismantled my heart wall. Do you know what heart wall is? So the heart wall, it is a concept that most people don't know about, but more than 93% of people carry a heart wall. So what is heart wall? there is a problem that we might have, which is broken heart syndrome. You might have heard about broken heart syndrome. It is very similar to heart attack. And the symptoms are completely the same, exactly the same. Heart attack and broken heart syndrome. So you have that symptoms like a heart attack. You go to the hospital, they don't know if it's broken heart syndrome or if it's heart attack. They have to examine your heart to find out. What is broken heart syndrome? A scientist in Japan, who was a physician too, he found out that there are some cracks on our heart. And you can see them under the x-ray or something like that. It is like the cracks that we might get on our bones when our bone is damaged. So the same thing, when we are under a situation, the trauma or drama in our life that causes the broken hearts, we get our heart broken. So our heart is very sensitive and we have to protect it. And the heart is the source of wisdom, as I told you before. So the heart, the messages that go from heart to brain is 9 times more than the messages that go from brain to heart. So you can tell me, who is the boss in our body? It is not our brain, it's our heart. The commander is our heart. But what happens is that we are under those situations that we have to protect our heart. It might be a relationship situation, or we might lose a loved one in our family and go through the process of grief, or it can cause by anything. So we have to protect our heart. What do we do normally? Our subconscious mind uses the trapped emotions to build something around our heart. It's like a shelter. So it's like a bomb shelter. What does it mean? Imagine that there's an attack in our country and we go to bomb shelter. Now we are in the bomb shelter. 10 years has passed from that war, but we don't have any means of communication to the other outer worlds. So we're still staying in that bomb shelter after 10 years. So the same thing happens to us. We go through some dilemma in our relationships or whatever. We build that shelter around our heart, and then we live in there forever. And then it separates us from others. It separates us from ourselves. It separates us from life. So those kind of 3 things are the 3 sources of our core beliefs. Whatever mindset you have about yourself and about others and about life, that creates our core belief. So when our core beliefs are manipulated by that heart wall, then what do we have left? We are living in a cell in the society, the self-made jail in the society. And more than 93% of people are living like that. So when she dismantled that heart wall, it was a life-changing experience for me. And when I do that for others, I see in front of my eyes how they flourish after. Because it is like getting out of jail and facing the whole life, the full life. So it is completely different. So that was another breakthrough that I went through after that process. So I had that mindset that life is not my enemy. Life is my best friend. And if something happens that I don't like, it doesn't matter what it is a gift that I'm receiving from my friend called life. Sometimes it is wrapped in an ugly paper, but it is still a gift. So if I open it up, I can find something in there. And sometimes I plan for something and it doesn't happen. And I know that it means that something better is going to happen. Because I cannot plan everything up front. My brain has a limited capacity to see what is best for me. So I know that I have a friend that is taking care of me. So I had that mindset after all those breakthroughs that I had. A couple of years ago, I went skiing. and I fell down. I've been skiing for more than 40 years, and so it's very unlikely for me to just fall down on skiing because I've been through all sorts of slopes and stuff like that. So uh, I came off the slope, and then I was on a flat ground, moving slowly. Nobody was around me, and all of a sudden I fell down. What happened was I didn't know why. What happened was I was flat on the ground. I tried to get up. I couldn't move my left arm. I went to the emergency in the hospital. They took x-rays. They said that you have a broken scapula. And the surgeon who was examining that, he said that, how did you manage to fracture this bone, that large bone in your shoulder that is covered with muscles? He said that I've only seen this kind of fracture in car accidents. How did you manage that? To get that impact to just break it? And I told him that it was not a big impact. I don't know how it happened. So he said that I cannot cast it. I cannot do anything about it. You have to deal with it for more than 6 months. There's going to be a lot of pain every time. A slight movement is going to make you cry from pain. So he gave me the strongest painkillers he could find. He said that it is you and those painkillers. You have to deal with it. So I went home. I couldn't move my arm. Every slight of movement, as he said, was causing a lot of pain. I was taking the painkillers, and I said, that is a gift I received from my friend called life. So what can I do with that? What is inside? So I digged in, and I found that I still can use my right arm. My right hand is operational. So I said that I have a book that is overdue for a long time. I wanted to write that book, never got a chance. Now it's time. I cannot do anything else. Let's do it. So I went to the basement and started writing, and I noticed I'm there for 12 hours, 14 hours, and I'm not taking any painkiller because I'm just writing and writing and writing. I'm not taking any medicine, and I would forget about eating and sleeping and resting, everything else. So that was the definition of being in the zone, being in a flow state. And I knew about that state. I read about it, I knew about it, that all the people who have achieved something substantial for the world and for themselves have been in that state. I never had first-hand experience. So that accident helped me to have that experience of being in the zone. So after a couple of weeks, I produced a lot of writing, sent it to the publisher, and the publisher said that we have to edit it. It's too much. You have to just cut it down. So the editing and formatting process took longer than writing the book. So it was quite an experience. So it showed me a lot of things, experience of being in the zone. And when you are there, you are coming with some wisdom. I don't say information and I don't say knowledge, because it's the wisdom that you're receiving through your heart. You are like a channel, and you write something, and then you say, wow, was it me who wrote this? And the information is even new for you when you're writing it. So that was quite an experience that I had. So it was very interesting. The whole thing, I could connect them together. When you are in the zone, you can achieve things that look impossible. But in order to be in the zone, you have to have your heart open. You have to dismantle your heart, be able to get access to that wisdom, because every one of us is one idea away from being on top of our game. Just one idea. All the things that have created in our life, valuable things, all the paintings, all the artwork, on all the music, all the technology like internet and whatever you can name. The people who came up with this they had something that it was never there before. There's something new. They came up with something new and then they act on it. So all of us are one idea away from being on top of our game. So where the idea is coming, not from our brain, not from copying that person or this person, when opening our heart, which is the source of wisdom.
It's very interesting, and you go into that in your book. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, I go into that in the book. I talk about the three types of procrastination. So some so I have specific definitions for them, the titles. The first one I call it the static stagnation. So static stagnation is when you are facing some challenges that you just don't want to get out of bed because the challenge is so much, so big that you go to the freeze mode. We have fight or flight or freeze. So that is the freeze mode. When you are facing a challenge that is bigger than you just stop doing everything and then you go to freeze mode. And sometimes it is caused by uh, uh, big changes in our life, like a break up with someone, like losing your job, or the loss of a loved one, or uh, even moving from one place to another. So it can cause by many things. So you are facing those kind of challenges and it takes you to that mode that you cannot move much. So that is a static stagnation. The second type of stagnation is dynamic stagnation. Dynamic stagnation is you're on the move. You're moving, but you're moving on a circle. Why? Because you have been told that in order to be a good citizen, a good person, you have to go to college and graduate and go to work and be on the safe side of the equation. And so you go to work and come back home and entertain yourself, watch a movie or something like that. The next day it's the same. You go to work and come back home. It's a loop, and you are in that circle. There's no achievement, there's no excitement, there's no impact. And when you look back, you see that you have spent all your life in that mode without any enjoyment. You lost your life, basically. So you are in the comfort zone in that state. You are always on the safe side. So you stay in the comfort zone. So that is a trap that is sometimes even advertised by the society, by the teachers you had, and because they need the workforce for the society. So, and we realize that we don't want to stay in that comfort zone because that is the safe zone, but it is the dead zone as well. Because when you are standing still, life is moving forward. So it means that we are moving backwards compared to life. So, and we realize that and we try to do something. What do we have as a choice? So we can say that I try to do something new, to get out of the comfort zone. Trying never works because there's always a gap between me and whatever I want to achieve. It never works. Then I say that I do my best. So I start some movement and move forward until I get a barrier that is larger than me. Then I stop. I say that I did my best, but I cannot overcome that. So we stop. So it doesn't work. And some people say that the only way we can move forward is by saying that I'm gonna go forward no matter what. We never look back. We just fight and fight and fight. And we become a warrior, a fighter. And then what happens? That we are always in the stress mode. because we're fighting. Fighting is not fun because we get attacks from everywhere. So we have to be careful. And we are moving forward with the fight. That is not an easy fight. Why? Because we have to battle with our subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is all the programming, all the self-image that we have, all the habits that we have, all the beliefs that we have, the emotions that we have. And the speed of subconscious mind operation is a million times higher than the speed of conscious decisions. Why? Because when I consciously think about something, between 20 to 40 neurons are fired in my brain. When I subconsciously think of doing some operation, between 20 million to 40 million neurons are fired in my brain. So the speed of the operation of my subconscious mind is a million times faster than me and stronger than me. So I am fighting with all those programmings, all those things. I have a self-image. I give you an example. Some people win lotteries, and there are a lot of research that a lot of people who win lotteries, after a while, after a couple of years, a few years, they file bankruptcy. Why is that? Because their self-image is not matching with the new wealth that they've gained suddenly. So they do self-sabotage. Unconsciously, they do stupid things to lose all the money to get back to the square one where they feel more comfortable. So it is done subconsciously. So we do self-sabotage. When we start moving towards our goal, because it's not matching with our subconscious thought and beliefs and images, we do something stupid that brings us back. It's like dieting. We just lose weight, we're close and to the target weight, and then we do stupid things and brings us back to the level one. It's called yo-yo dieting, because our self-image is not there yet about the new situation. So it's like a train. The train is going south, and I'm in a train, and all of a sudden I decide to go north. I'm still in a train, walking north in the train. Where do I end up? South, of course, because the train is going south. So it is not an easy battle fighting with our subconscious mind. But some people do it. Some people have that urge that I have to be a winner. I don't accept anything else. So they do, and they go ahead and do it. They build businesses, they build empires, they do a lot of achievements, they achieve a lot of things. But at the end, they are like a wounded warrior. All the stress and anxiety they carried to build that business is causing them to have health issues. And all the time they spent on the business, and they still, from the time that they have to spend with their kids and family, causes relationship issues. And then at the end, they thought that when they are on top, they're supposed to be happy. But it is the other way around. You have to be happy to just get there. So they get there, and then they feel empty. They're not happy. So a lot of people on top have those kind of symptoms. They're not happy, they have health issues, and they have relationship issues. And I call that inner stagnation, the third type of stagnation. Everything is perfect on the outside, but inside is rusty and the ship is sinking. So in that book, I explain about those three types of stagnation, and I have that kind of way in that book to suggest that there is a better way. Instead of going through hustle and grind to be able to solve that problem, to get out of your comfort zone, if we be able to bring our subconscious along and bring our heart along and bring our inspired action along, you're like a happy family in a train going towards an exotic place, destinations. So it's going to be joyful. Everybody is talking about enjoying the journey. Nobody tells you how, because they say that you have to enjoy the journey of success, but nobody tells you how. So I'm just going to come up with a couple of things that might change that perspective. There's in the book, but I'm going to tell it in here, summarize it in here. So the first one is changing your perspective. How? Changing our definition is changing our perspective. Our perspective is based on our definitions. So what do we define as success? When I ask that, I know that success is different to different people, but mostly what I get is success means reaching my goal. And I tell them, if success is reaching your goal, you're going to be miserable most of your life. Because how many times you are on top of the podium, momentary experiences in your life, very short time. So compared to whole life, you have lost your whole life dreaming about those moments. But what if we change the definition? We say that success means moving towards a worthy goal with joy. Then as long as you are moving towards a worthy goal, you consider yourself successful. So it means that you can be successful most of your life. Change your definition, change your life. So that is one concept that I talk about in that book, that the labeling and things that we can use. And the other thing is that I have a 10-step process for people. They can use that 10-step process to just be harmonized with the subconscious mind and enjoy the journey. So I'm going to summarize it in 3 steps, because 10 step, it might be hard to remember, but 10 step is easier to remember. 3 step is easier to remember. So we have a goal we want to move towards. And we know that in order to move towards a goal, you have to break it down to smaller chunks. Why? Because when you have a big project, a building, for example, it doesn't appear suddenly, all of a sudden, the building appears. You have to go through different tasks, different things, break it down in a project and goals from different angles. Some of them you can do it together, some of them one is after another or something like that. So you have something like that. You have to go do those little tasks. They call them needle moving tasks, because if you're in a car, it's in neutral, you press the gas pedal, it doesn't go anywhere. You have to change the gear, and then as you press the pedal, you see the movement on the needle for the speedometer meter, so you can see that you are moving towards your goal. So the same thing, you have to find those tasks that is needle moving towards your goal. And it's not easy to find those. Everybody knows what it is required to just get something, If we don't know, we can ask others, we can brainstorm, even we can ask ChatGPT. It's going to give us the list of things that we need to do. But the problem is that as soon as we start doing them, they're called tasks. As soon as we start doing them, the resistance comes. Why? Because it's not matched with our subconscious mind. So subconscious says that sit down, you don't need to move anywhere. It's safer to be here. You don't need to move in that direction. So it brings us the fear of success, the fear of failure, the fear of change, and every sort of things that it can to just doesn't let us to move forward. So that is what usually happens. We have our yearly resolution on paper. When we start, we do just a little bit of it, and then we just leave it. We cannot finish it. So that is why, because our subconscious mind doesn't let us. So in that 3-step process, the first step is game plan. So what I do is that I change those tasks' name to little games. Why? Because there is a big difference between a task and a game. We all enjoy playing games. I bought a PS5 for my son, there was a game that came with a PS5, and he spent 2 days not eating, not sleeping, not doing anything, just playing that game. And I was amazed. I couldn't force him to just do anything else. He was so in that thing. So games are like that. When there's a game, you are like a child, like in the playground. We just enjoy doing whatever we're doing. So we changed the name from task to game. So we have those little games. We even picked some name for that. And then, so that is the game plan. And then when we are going to sleep, before we go to sleep, we usually put a lot of negativity into our subconscious mind. Before you go to sleep, your brain is operating with the alpha brainwaves, which means that it is receptive to whatever programming that we put in there. Usually we put all the worries, all the fears, all the anxiety, all the grief, blaming ourselves during the day, the things that we didn't finish. And so we put all those before we go to sleep. And then we wake up in the morning tired. We didn't do anything, but we were tired. That's why. So we're going to reverse it. We're going to put those little games in there. How? We just plan. I'm going to play that game and this game and do this game first, and then I do that, the other game. We plan for the next day, which game you want to play. Those little moving actions that is called games. So when we wake up in the morning, before even we open our eyes, we do something else. The second part, which is warm up. For every big game, for a sport, for example, you have to do the warm up. Otherwise, you injure yourself. So we have to do the warm up. What is warm up? It's mental rehearsal. As soon as you wake up, before even you get out of bed, as you're lying down, you're imagining that you're playing that game during the day and you're enjoying, you have the feeling of victory and you are on top of the podium and you're celebrating, and you review that in your mind. So that is the warm-up. So you programmed your subconscious mind 2 times so far. One was the game plan, the other one was the warm-up. So the third one is just playing the game during the day. And it's not going to be hard because you brought your subconscious mind along with you in that. And then we can adjust as well. As a pilot that adjusts a course, an airplane is off course more than 90% of the time, but the pilot just bring it to the course, and then at the end, the plane is at its destination. That is the same thing. So we just play those games, adjusted a little bit here and there, and then we're at our destination. And we're having fun as well because we're playing. That is enjoying the journey of success.
Well, those sound like some interesting 3 steps there, and I think that a lot of us could do with implementing that into our lives for sure. So, can you give us an example of how that might look? How you might implement that 3-stage plan for, say, I don't know, some sort of. How would you set up your day for?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Tomorrow?
let's give an example. There are 4 aspects in our life: health, wealth, relationship, and happiness. So there are like 4 tires of a car. If any of them be low, we cannot move far. If one of them is flat, we cannot move at all. So we have to take care of it. So those are the symptoms. Those are the effects. Those are not the cause. But we have to do something about it so we can see which area needs more work. And I have a free quiz for people they can take to find out what their life quality score is based on those factors. So there are 20 questions, and it gives them the score, and then they can find out what they can focus on. But let's say I conclude that I need some work on my relationships. Just an example. And then I come up with those little games. So one of the tasks that I need to do is improving my relationship, let's say with my wife, is to listen to her. Because most of the time, listening is something that we do automatically. When somebody is talking, we are thinking about what I'm gonna respond to whatever he or she is saying. We are not listening fully. So that causes the problem in our relationships. And we conclude that we need to practice that listening. So we have a listening game. So we say that this is one of the games that I want to play. Before I go to sleep, I just decide that that is what I'm playing tomorrow. Having conscious listening game, playing that game, see what happens. Some moments when my wife is talking, I'm not going to be doing anything else. I have my full attention to her instead of she is talking and I'm thinking about 100 different things and I can't even listen to her. So I have a little game, and then in the morning I just imagine that I am playing that game in different scenarios. She is in the kitchen and she is asking me to do something. Instead of my mind being busy with this and that, I just listen and understand what she says, and I even repeat that to myself to make sure, and even to her to make sure that I understood what she said. So it's like a game I play in my head, and the feeling that she is amazed about my behavior change, because I'm not usually like that. And then whatever she says, I'm just nodding and I'm just repeating to her, yeah, you're right, I have to do this and that. So, and then during the day, there was some scenarios that open up for me to practice that game. So it might be very easy like that. So whatever problem that you have, find those little things that helps you to move forward and practice those. It is not complicated at all.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It's definitely something I think I'll be trying to implement as well. Honestly, I'd never heard of turning it into. Never really thought about turning it into a game. You know, different things that you don't like, but it's true. I mean, everybody likes to play games. So a lot of very good information today, and a lot to unpack with a lot of great insights. Is there something that maybe we haven't talked about or didn't ask about, but we should have?
So uh, one thing that we usually have is that we associate ourselves with our thoughts and with our emotions. For example, I say I'm angry, but it is not like that. I am carrying the energy of anger. But if I say I am angry, I am associating myself with that emotion. But I have to separate myself from that emotion because we have three layers. One is physical layer that can get wounds and scratches. And the second one is the emotional layer. It's like a physical layer, but a little bit lighter. And the third one is mental layer. And we are not those layers. We are something else. I'm not my physical body. Otherwise, if I cut my hand, I'm going to be a different person, but I'm the same person. I'm not my emotions. Otherwise, if I get jealous, I'm going to be a separate person, but I'm still the same person feeling that emotion. I'm not my thoughts. Otherwise, if I don't think about anything, I shouldn't exist. So I'm something else beyond those layers. And when I realize that, I realize that all the problems that I have is either physical, emotional, or mental. So it is just those layers. It's not me. And then when I look at myself, that those trapped emotions can get stuck in my body. Everybody on average is carrying more than 200 trapped emotions. And almost everybody, 93% of people having the heart wall. And when I look at myself from that perspective, I would say that I can have a better compassion for myself because I'm carrying all those loads and it's not me. It's like a shirt that is white and then I go outside and some stain goes on it so it can be washed. So it helps me to have better understanding about myself, better relationship with myself, and accept myself, forgive myself, and have more love towards myself. Self love. Everybody's talking about self love. Nobody gives you a clue how you can have that kind of self love. But that is the way. You see it separately from yourself. That is just a stain on your clothes. That's it. And then you build that kind of understanding for yourself, and then you can spread it around to other people as well. You understand them better because they are, whatever their behavior is, you don't judge them based on their behavior because you know that they are behaving like that because their emotions are acting as a filter for them. They are carrying that vibration, so it causes them to have that kind of behavior, so you understand them better. So that is another topic that we can talk hours and hours about, but I just wanted to just open it up. There's more detail in my book about those kind of different topics that we just uh, opened up today.
Well, it's definitely interesting information, and it's something that we should all take to something we should all take to heart. And especially the self love and compassion thing, and just understanding each other. So, just before we wrap up here today, how can our listeners connect with you, Farzin? What are your preferred channels and handles, and how?
Sure. So my website is joyfulfix.com, and it is easy to remember because fixing those kind of things doesn't need to be painful. It can be joyful based on my experience. I had along with the way to just gain that wisdom, I had some painful moments, but now I'm in that capacity that I can give those experiences to other with joy. So joyfulfix.com, and when they go to the website, there is a contact page. They can record their voice in there. There is a link to that quiz that I talked about in the contact page, so they can take that free quiz to have a life quality score, and then they can record their voice in there, and it's a private and confidential message, a secure message that I receive from them, and then we can connect, and then I can arrange for a free consultation. A free consultation, I tell them about where they are right now and where they want to be and the barriers that they have along the way. I give them the roadmap. They can take it themselves, or I can help them out to get there faster. So that is the process. And there is the link to my book in that website as well. So if they go to the website, there's a book link, so they can uh, go to that link. I actually recently released the audio book plus the ebook package. So the original price for the book is uh, $27, but they can get that package for $8.99. So it's for $9 they can have access to the audio version and the ebook. And there are lots of information in there, so they can spend some time and see what works for them, try the exercises, and then connect with me. And then we can always have that kind of relationships and connections if they have any question or something.
Okay, that sounds good. And for all your listeners, again, that is joyfulfix.com, and I'll be putting that in the description to make sure that you can get connected with Farzin and you can take that quiz and get a copy of his book. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Your insights and experiences are truly inspiring. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Procrastinator's Pit Stop, and stay tuned for more inspiring stories and practical advice. Until next time, keep pushing forward and stay motivated.